The Raptors took to an oracle, and tonight could be the biggest night in Toronto sports since Joe Carter took Mitch Williams' yard in the 1993 World Series. It is a big night in Toronto, and Jeff Van Gundy back here on the show getting set to call another NBA Finals game on ABC. How are you, Jeff?
Good, Rich. How's everything?
I'm great. Can you put in perspective what we're seeing from Kawhi Leonard? Because obviously we're getting a lot is getting lost in the Warriors are all banged up shuffle. What have you personally witnessed from Leonard, and how you can relate to what you've seen before in finals and or playoffs history?
Well, he's just a great player. I think a lot of people have taken a lot of time to speculate about his personality, to speculate about where he's going to play next season, about his load management, or about how he forced his way out of San Antonio. All those things sometimes obscure the bigger point to me, which is this guy's a great basketball player. And his ability to get to a spot on the floor and elevate over people is not the same as Durant, but it's similar. Durant does it with size. Leonard does it with size, length, and strength. But they're both, when they get into that mid-range area, are absolutely impossible to guard. And the last game, he scored big. He's getting to the free throw line. And also, he didn't turn the ball over. So when you go on the road in these type of games and you can keep your turnovers low as a team, and it starts with your best player, you got a heck of a shot. And, conversely, Golden State, I believe, had 19 turnovers. It's hard to win that way in these really high-level games.
And it seems that the Raptors have taken on his persona. Certainly, Jeff, I don't know how much you're on social media or Twitter, but a video of the team walking off the court after taking Game 4, the Raptors walking back into their locker room, and it looked like they lost by 20. It looked like that they didn't have any sense of being on the precipice of anything. And to me, that would be the most scary piece of video if I'm a Warriors fan, that they are just locked in. Jeff, I'm wondering what you're seeing.
Well, you're right about my lack of social media presence, Rich. I'm not a big guy on that, but I do think they have a very workmanlike game style and star. So everything, to me, fits together. I think they have a very experienced team that understands that, it takes four. And they've been think about it now, in the Milwaukee series, not only were they down 0-2, but they were ready to go down 0-3 and pulled it out in overtime and then won the next three to advance. And so they know how quickly things can change from good to bad, but also from bad to good if you're Golden State. And so I think they have a very mature approach. I think they're well-positioned, obviously. And right now, with the teams that both teams are putting on the floor, they're a far superior team talent-wise.
So what do you expect to see with Durant tonight? Right now, obviously, it's a large mystery, and there was word that he did, in fact, practice significant time or no significant time with the team. What do you expect to see tonight, Jeff?
Well, I don't expect him to play, but if he is able to play, I think you have to then judge, is he healthy enough to play effectively? But if he's healthy, the time off, while it would worry me for most, he's such a huge talent upgrade that he'll be a positive at both ends of the floor. I think people forget about how good he is defensively now, how he's grown in that area. And so I would suspect if he's able to play normal minutes tonight, plus 30, I would suspect he's going to score over 20. I mean, as I think he said it, like, I'm Kevin Durant, and that's exactly what I expect to see, a guy who can take a month off and get buckets.
So I guess the question I have then, why do you think he's not playing? What gives you that indication or sense or belief?
I just don't think, from a health standpoint, it's progressed to where either he feels or they feel that he's able to go out there and compete. I know it's been a long-running speculation. If you take it all the way back to when he got injured in Houston, people were talking like, I wonder if he'll be able to play the next game. And it made me sense that they didn't really understand what like a calf's pull was. I mean, it's a debilitating injury. It's not something like a hand injury or even a hamstring. Like, it is hard to play with that. And so from the start, I didn't think he would be back in the playoffs. But I think because of the speculation day to day, he may practice today, it never left them. It was the constant source of questioning. And I'm not saying it has had any impact on their play, but it certainly has been a thing that has never been put to rest because the expectation for him to play the next game has been there since the Portland series.
Jeff Van Gundy here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you think is going through Kerr's mind? Because obviously he can't just wave a wand and make that calf injury go away, and he is a former player and shooter, knows exactly potentially what that would mean. How does a coach handle this, Jeff?
Well, I think you try to get your group to lock in on what you have versus what you don't have. And I think he can make a compelling point to his team. Listen, we're not playing well. That's the bottom line. We're not playing well. We're giving up pick-and-roll layups, right, where we're not taking the roll man. We can correct that. We can take care of the ball better. We can make our free throws. Like, stuff that can be taken care of without Durant, much like Game 2 here, we can win a game. And if we win a game, and I would say this, then I promise you we're going to win Game 6 and we'll be back here in Game 7. That's what I would try to paint the picture as.
Would you sit down Durant and just have a conversation, just a one-on-one, look him in the eye, what's going on with your calf?
I think I think the communication between coach and player doesn't have to be as formal as something like that. I think you have, I'm sure he's had everyday communication. And so I think, when you've coached this guy 3 years, I think you have a good handle on who he is and how you best deal with him. And obviously this has been, I'm sure, stressful for Durant too, because he realizes their ability to compete at the highest level, despite what some in the media were trying to paint at during, the Portland series, that they may be better without Durant. I think Durant understands, and the Warriors understand, that when you're playing at the highest level, you need your best players, not just there, but playing well. And so I'm sure the stress on Durant, knowing that much of the fate of this series depends on him and his health, I'm sure it's been hard for him.
Well, I mean, don't you think that the 4 games of the NBA Finals have put that supposition that you were hearing about, that a lot were talking about in that Blazers series, that they're better off without Durant or they're no worse without Durant? Don't you think that's put this to bed, Jeff?
Well, I already thought it was to bed. I don't even think it got a room in my house to even think about. Like, the thing is, Rich, and it just shows you perspective. When Toronto played at a higher percentage of winning percentage without Leonard this year in the 22 games that he missed than he played in. Mm-hmm. So they played better without Leonard than with Leonard in the regular season. No one was saying, you know what, I think we're going to be a little bit better without him in the playoffs. But for some reason, the media, either they don't know or they go for the drama. They paint these pictures that, like, no one in basketball would say, oh, yeah, the way to get better, lose Durant. Did that work out for Oklahoma City? Has it worked out so far for Golden State? No, it doesn't work that way. This guy is an elite talent who is so improved as a passer and a handler, and he's such a great shot creator. There's no guarding him in the half court. So he can go and get you a shot where at times where you need a guy. And then defensively, he's able to compete against multiple different positions. So their depth, as we know, has been compromised over the years. The depth of their talent, if you put up the roster from their first championship season to now, it is absolutely night and day the drop-off in overall depth. So what they win with is star power. But if one of the stars is out, it makes it difficult. And if another star is compromised in Klay Thompson, even harder. So these are real issues that can't be overcome with talk or, thinking somehow you take an elite talent out and, like no coach believes in that whole, next man up. If the next man up was as good as the guy up, we pay him the same amount.
I love it. It's true, Jeff. I just think that in the talk industry, sports talk industry, of which your network is part, I sit behind this mic 3 hours a day, so I think about this all the time. I just think that so many folks in the sports talk industry cannot get over the fact that Durant left Oklahoma City for Golden State, and that affects his legacy forevermore and will always affect it until he decides to do something else. I don't believe that. And I think that's why everybody's reading into that 4-game sweep without Durant was something that writ large means the Warriors don't need him. Tell me cry me that river July 1st. I mean, that's insane. That is just, to me, insane, Jeff.
Right. So I agree with you. I think Durant's leaving Oklahoma City. I can understand people saying they didn't like his decision. And as fans, they have every reason or every right to say that, hey, I don't agree with that. While we acknowledge his right to do whatever he wants in free agency, I, as Joe fan, think I would have rather him stayed in Oklahoma City. Okay, that's one thing. But to then take that and morph it into a team is actually better without Durant, that's just silly. And if you were watching the Portland series closely, yes, they swept, but it covered up the fact that they got down big in games 2, 3, and 4 and beat a Portland team that was also beat up with Nurkic being out. And so the Warriors, as most teams do, a lot of this is who's the healthiest in sport. And they've had some breaks along the way in this great run that they've had in the playoffs with guys for other teams missing. Now they're on the wrong end of it. And Toronto's benefiting from a health advantage. So I just think sometimes it's simpler than we make it. And when you look out there and you watch Kevin Durant play, if you don't say, hey, this guy's one of the great players to have ever played this game, then you're being you're overlooking his greatness for a different narrative because you don't like something about him.
Right. Jeff, I appreciate the call. Great broadcast. I've really enjoyed it. And just to let everyone know behind the scenes, you're the one who spotted Van Vliet's tooth on the floor, right, Jeff? You were not going to let Game 4 continue without that being picked up Friday night, right?
Well, listen, I love Fred Van Vliet, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a practice of his at Wichita State his senior year. They had Ron Baker. So I know their coach, nice. Greg Marshall. And he wasn't overly athletic, but I'm going to tell you, Greg Marshall is a special coach. He was, he's demanding. And Fred Van Vliet was, right in it. So I wasn't surprised he put himself in harm's way, and I wasn't surprised he was ready to participate again. That guy is not only a great player, but he's got Hall of Fame type toughness.
No kidding.
He's a tough dude.
Yeah, well, we saw that. I mean, the blood and then that tooth on the floor. My gosh. And it looked like they were about to keep going. Like no one saw it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. That's a great camera work, too. I love that.
He zoomed right in on that. Hey, Jeff, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Have a great broadcast of Game 5, and let's chat down the line, please.
All right, take care.
Always enjoy. That's Jeff Van Gundy calling Game 5 on ABC tonight.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.